The chapter starts with the chaos happening in the world. The sky is red. Buildings are on fire. Sirens are howling. Glass shattering. The news announcing that Mart limits the purchase of water and food by each individual, asking for the understanding of the people. Inside the store, people are fighting over food and water that is left inside. Everything is in chaos. We see our protagonist tired and panting among the crowd, also trying to get some for himself. He managed to get some sustenance through all that trouble. He heard a child crying for their grandma. As he looks over to the sound's direction, he saw people still fighting over food. People trying to snatch them away from each other. There is child crying for her grandmother. A grandmother on the ground, bleeding. How did everything all come to this chaos? As the earth kept on spinning, humanity destroyed themselves just within 3 months. The apocalypse started with just a news. An asteroid called X1I Rama that is expected to dangerously pass next to Earth after it has been discovered entering their solar system. 3 months earlier, Mr. Kang scrolling on this piece of news in his office. An office mate asked if he is going to go home. He replied to her that she should go on home first. Another office mate appeared telling her that Mr. Kang is a divorcee, saying he probably does not want to go home because he is lonely in his house, and that is why he works late every single day. Within that 3 months, the asteroid Rama was just seen as a chunk of rocks floating around in space. By that, it was overlooked by the government and the public. But a news was reported that the asteroid Rama, which was only predicted to drive by near Earth, has been constantly changing its way and heading towards the planet Earth, as it was now recognized by the government now. The International Space Development Conference proposes to launch nuclear bombs on the asteroid to direct its trajectory and avoiding hitting Earth. Experts stated that the proposal itself might not be enough. An expert named Professor Taeku Kim, a thermonuclear engineer, the asteroid Rama begun to slowly change its course. Professor Taeku Kim tells the public that the massive rock over 160 km in diameter is heading towards Earth at the speed of 17.5 km per second. As it is complex as it sounds, Taeku Kim puts in simple terms. The Earth and the Moon's distance is about 380,000 kilometers, and Rama's speed is moving that covers the distance of them within just 6 hours. And if that asteroid is at that size and at that speed crashes on Earth, that asteroid can blow the Earth in pieces, and hiding in bunkers is futile. He says taking action now is all too late, and the public tries to reassure people with false hope. As they are watching the news, Mr. Kang's office mate says that they can't trust anything that comes out in television. The woman coworker says she's worried about the matter, and it's hard for her to concentrate at work. The other office mate, he too is worried, but the professionals on the matter keep saying different opinions about it. The other colleague says the people of the internet already stated that it's too late to do anything now, and that the world's about to meet its end. The woman questions if it will really happen, and the man doubts the possibility of the news, but if it's true, he's going to his parents' house to be with his family. The woman asks Mr. Kang if he was worried about his parents. Mr. Kang says that it has been a long time since the passing of his parents. The news report shows Professor Taeku Kim saying that there could have been something done if they discovered the asteroid at least a year ago. Even at the middle of the chaos and the apocalypse, the asteroid is still not stopping from heading towards the Earth. A man named Mr. Klusky has announced that their plan is to fire all of the nuclear bombs in space simultaneously at the asteroid to avoid the impact on Earth. He makes a speech about humanity will prevail in the face of their greatest crisis yet in human history, and it will be a beacon of hope. Bring everyone in the world together to unite against the asteroid Rama. After that day, preachers preaching outside is coming because of the sins of the people, and the crisis is the judgment upon the humans, and accepting our demise from the meteor is the only way to enter the heavens. As Mr. Kang drives through the street with people watching the news about the announcement of the plan, seeing the news of Daniel J. Klusky gives people hope that they will stop Rama and they will not fail, and telling everyone to remain calm. As time went on during the chaos, The time has come. As Mr. Kang is about to give his food to the grandma and her daughter, a light beamed outside and a crowd ran through him and dropped his supply of food and water. As he was being stepped on by the crowd, he sees the grandma taking his food and running away carrying her granddaughter, leaving him alone at the Y-Mart. A beer rolls over towards him and takes the can of beer and pays for it at the register and leaves. As he walked outside, he sees the missile, the last hope of humanity, being launched towards the asteroid, and that very hope was blasted to smithereens, leaving humanity failing to redirect the asteroid. As all hope is lost, Mr. Kang looks through a picture book with him and his parents, flipping through pages until the last picture of the book flutters with him without his parents on his graduation. Kang lays down the picture book on the table and picks up his can of beer. He walks towards the balcony, opening his beer, and raised his beer towards the asteroid hitting the Earth. Cities crumbling to pieces, being crushed, exploding. As the world is about to end, Kang said, "Cheers to the end of the world." After blacking out, he wakes up in a room, birds chirping, a room that seems familiar. He bolted, and he looks through a mirror, as he sees himself as a younger version of himself. Him, Chol Soo-kang, an ordinary office worker, died from the asteroid called Rama that crashes on Earth, and as his eyes did not deceive him, he returned to his younger self, a 13-year-old kid. Chol Soo can't believe this is all real. He stands up from his bed, but he slips, breathing heavily, thinking that all of this is just a flashback, or just his life flashing before his eyes before he dies. He looks through his table, staggering. He picks up a book called Secrets of the Universe. He opens the pages looking through the author's bio, preface, table of contents, the barcode. He thought that if all of this was a flashback, there was no way that he'd remember these. He opens his computer, searches through the internet about the asteroid X1/Rama. It was the old days. The internet is slow at the time. It was expected that there were no search results about an asteroid collision or X1I Rama. Chol Soo tries to calm down. He thinks that he came back in time, but doesn't know how. Why? Who got him to the past? Was it aliens? Thinking the aliens could have made a clone out of his DNA and just used him to recreate a scenario from his memories. Being observed by them, he asked if there was someone there, sitting in silence. He guessed it's not the time to be confirmed at the moment. And there's another possibility for this phenomena. It's about parallel universes. Thinking he's in a divergence, he remembers that it is entirely impossible that branched out worlds could affect each other. What about Nietzsche's theory of eternal recurrence? To be able to pull all that, he shouldn't have remembered all of that in his past life, but he does currently. Is it actually the afterlife? Is he on heaven or hell? In Chol Soo's situation, it wasn't a reward for him or a punishment. In his memory of his final moments was all too real for him to be a dream. As he goes through his memories before he died, tears dropped. He cried about what happened before. As he cries, a person came from his door and called his name. His mother. She asked him why his books are all over the floor. She went inside his room and picked up the fallen books. As she's picking up and cleaning the mess, she advises Chol Soo that he should put them back where they belong after reading one of them. She looks at the messy desk and asks if he was looking for something. She asks Chol Soo why he is not answering her. Chol Soo quickly embraced his mother. She asked his husband why is their child acting strange, or did he have a nightmare? Chol Soo thought it does not matter if it was the afterlife or a cloning experiment. He's glad that he finally gets to see his parents once again. He knew it wasn't a dream. He thinks that the memories of before he died was just a really long and terrible nightmare. Chol Soo wonders if everything that had happened before will happen again. After seeing his parents, he disregarded the clone theory as his parents were cremated and were buried in a cemetery, and it was impossible for the aliens to get DNA from ashes. But how does he experience this phenomena in a world where he was before? As to why was he the one being brought back to the past? And there were probably more qualified people for regression than him. An ordinary person that works in a desk, even if he's having massive amount of theories or thoughts about all of these. The asteroid X1I Rama is still coming to Earth. if the world is not much different from the original, the future is already guaranteed, because the asteroid hitting on Earth is already a fact, and it's a waste of time wasting away on the hows and whys. It is unclear to hold on to unsolvable problems. But it is clear that Charles Su himself is faced with the problem that has the causes and the effects that doesn't have a solution yet. What does he need to do to save Earth, the entire humanity? As he opens his eyes after thinking of solutions on how to save Earth, his father asked if he liked the model of the Earth. He suggested taking a family photo. While his father was taking a photo, he was listening to the speaker of the observatory. But suddenly a thought came to his head. It was an unknown person explaining that if they just discovered the asteroid 3 years ago, or even a year just, then something could have been done. Charles Su suddenly realized a solution on how to stop the asteroid and was just staring blankly. 1 month later, he seen is standing in front of Cholj Middle School. As school starts, the teacher welcomes the 7th graders on their first day of middle school. She introduces herself. Her name is Miss Yuri Na, a homeroom teacher. As Charles Su thinks deep that he doesn't remember much about his previous life, but it isn't completely gone. It almost feels like déjà vu. Certain memories came back at him. Watching the news feels like he has seen it before, and talking to his parents feels has the feeling of the same old conversation that happened before. The school, the teacher, and the classmates are all familiar to him. It is not déjà vu, but actually memories that had happened. The teacher felt the class is a bit shy, and suggests that they introduce themselves, starting with Charles Su Kang. As he was being called, he is still thinking deep into his situation, thinking that he is being punished. The teacher asked what he likes to do, or what he wants to become when he grows up. Charles Su thought what he wanted to be at his age, but he didn't really planned it out before. But now it's different. Charles Su announces to his class that he wanted to become an astrophysicist. The teacher tells him that he likes to look at stars, and asks what goals does he have in mind. He tells the class that he wants to look for asteroids that has the possibility to hit the Earth, even if they're at a safe distance, being prepared beforehand to stop a catastrophe. He wants to look for asteroids that are extremely distant, the earlier the better, so that he can predict if there is a possibility of hitting Earth and saving the world. The class is surprised by his specific goal. The teacher told Charles Su that the chances of an asteroid hitting the Earth are small. He replied that it can still happen. His classmates comments that what he said was lame, and that he probably got the idea from a movie. They murmured and murmured. The teacher asked the class to be quiet, and Charles Su's dream is great. A random classmate stands up suddenly. He pointed and shouted, "Amazing tech." He got out of his sit and walks towards Charles Su and tells him that he is rooting for him as he shakes his hand. The kid tells him that he wants to do tech too, as he was swinging Charles Su's hand vigorously. The teacher calls out Taeku Kim. Charles Su suddenly remembers a person named Taeku Kim from his past. Taeku Kim, a researcher from the Asteroid Defense Committee. As the world was about to end in his past life, Taeku Kim was a famous individual, as he was the reason why he chose to become an astrophysicist by his interviews. The teacher tells Taeku that he can't just come up if it's not his turn yet. As Taeku Kim just keeps on swinging Charles Su's arm, he screams technology, telling the people of the classroom that is the pinnacle of knowledge that has anything and everything of value, and that technology describes human history and the possibilities for the future. Charles Su asks him if it is similar to a utopia. Taeku replies that technology is not a utopia, and that the flaws are part of the design. He wants people to prepare something that might never happen, and the odds are against you, comparing it to a minuscule. He tells Charles Su that he's still gonna learn all about them and trying his best, even if it does not work. Taeku Kim points at Charles Su Kang and says that he has been teching without even realizing it. Their teacher, Miss Na, says it's a difficult concept. Taeku explains that it's not difficult and she will understand everything once she has tech tea. He encourages her teacher to even tech. Charles Su Kang asks him if he wants to tech. Taeku's eyes light up and starts spewing things like superstring theory and rockets. Su goes with rockets while Teku asks why not the superstring theory. He thinks that a powerful rocket engine must be developed that is enough to change an asteroid's trajectory. How can he also convince Teku to join his plan to save the Earth? Su explains that the superstring theory is interesting, but it's difficult to prove through actual experiments, and he's not into research based on theories. Teku explains that what makes it fun. Su told him that he prefers a field where he can do an actual experiment and real results, like developing rocket engines. If Teku chooses rocket engines for his tech, he can help him with his plan. Teku asks if he is thinking about rocket propulsion systems. He concurs, but is bothered by the propulsion technology for the rockets, since it is not powerful enough to redirect an asteroid. They need a better engine, such as a thermonuclear engine with a liquid core. Teku picks up his notebook and says that today's scientists have not made any progress into solid core tech. He asks Su if he thinks it is possible to create and commercialize an engine to generations ahead in the future. Teku Kim hesitates if it would work. He asks Su if it would work, how fast would it go? Su explains that thrust matters more than speed, so he doesn't have any exact calculations yet. Teku questions him if he has a rough estimate. Su says the estimated speed is at 10% the speed of light. Teku was surprised and knew that it was tech. He asks Su if he can also do the tech, and asks if they can do it together, and says that two heads are better than one. Su was confused on what was tech, and that he doesn't get it, and he agrees to let Teku in his plan. Time skip to 20 years later. The television was interrupted with a broadcast for a breaking news. The International Space Development Conference, or IST, has announced that the countermeasure against Rama has failed and the end of the world is imminent. The news states that the end of the world is coming. The news mentioned about the plan to countermeasure against the asteroid X1I Rama that is proposed by the International Space Development Conference, using a rocket propulsion system to change the trajectory of the asteroid. Su asks Teku that didn't he stated that everything was going to go well. As the news still plays, the news report states that the plan was not possible due to the limits of technology, as it was Professor Teku Kim responsible for the failure of the project. Teku laughs at the news. The International Space Development Conference announced that they will reveal to the public about the plan for nuclear missiles to be used to change the trajectory of Rama as a last option. Teku laughs about hearing about the news about his resignation. He rhetorically asks him if he has heard of a company giving you your own resignation. As Su stares at him as he laughs, Teku breaks it down that anyone other than him didn't believe him, telling him that he might be a renowned astronomer, but he wasn't a convincing one. Su Kim appears on TV addressing the news about his discovery of the asteroid, as the public have confirmed that as Su discovered the asteroid. Su spoke strongly about the dangers of the asteroid hitting Earth. He explained that the solar sail effect, the jet effect, was caused by vaporization of frozen gas, and the acceleration was caused by the uneven gravitational field of an ellipsoid. As Su became an astronomer and discovering the asteroid 3 years earlier than before, he accurately calculated its trajectory and has warned the public about its impact to Earth. But it wasn't enough for the people. Teku tells him that he was just a famous astronomer on TV and addressed the threat on Earth. As Teku concluded that people think it was just probably an excuse for funds from the government. He has known Su since they were kids, and he thinks that he wasn't one of those people that are all talk. People have thought that his claims were crazy, specifically about a rock that isn't even near the safe distance was going to impact Earth. Teku says that the people just pretended to work for a solution because they were just worried. As Teku jokingly mimics the public's reactions. And now that they have realized that Rama is actually real and is headed towards Earth, saying what are they going to do? He jokingly mimics the statement of the government that they haven't developed the propulsion system yet, and brushes of the idea and went to the idea of shooting nuclear missiles. Su tells him that he was in charge of the team and asks that didn't he worked on the engine. Teku replied that he did and that the other people refused to help him out. He said that they wouldn't let him use the facilities because it was dangerous and ignored his instructions on building the parts. as the directors were only interested for political views, telling Chalsu on how he was going to finish while dealing with that dilemma. Chalsu asks Teku that why didn't told him before. Teku tells him that he didn't have security clearance. He replied that he could have at least told him everything was not going through plan. Teku blames his pride. Chalsu was shocked. He asks him that the reason why he kept it hidden was because of his pride. Teku tells him that it might not mean much for him, but it means a lot for Teku. He tells him that he couldn't take it anymore after being pushed through all of the crap. He really wanted to finish the project and introducing it to the world. But Teku learned that not everything goes the way they want to. Teku explains that it wasn't easy. Chalsu gave up and talks to him that it would have been a little easier if it wasn't for his pride and that he wasn't completely serious when he started working on the engine. Chalsu refused to talk more since he can't be bothered to talk more, and says that it was just probably for Teku's amusement, because that's the kind of guy you are after all. Chalsu said told Teku. Teku replied, so you already knew. Chalsu blames himself saying it's my fault for trusting you and slams the door shut. Teku says that it actually made him feel a little better. People are preaching since Rama is a divine judgment that has come to crash for humanity's sins, saying to humbly accept it and cleanse the body and soul with its purifying flames, while people are busy at their phones looking at the news. Chalsu is sad at the fact that he failed and he couldn't save Earth for this time. He thinks if there will be another chance, and he just got considerably lucky in his life right now. As the meteor Rama approaches, he cheers for the last time inside his room while everything gets destroyed around, and to his surprise, he goes back in time again as if he was stuck in an eternal time loop. Will Chalsu be able to save everyone on Earth, or does he die trying again and again?
Thanks for staying in tune with our manga recap. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button for more updates from our content.